Where's marker? Where's marker?
Wait a minute, one minute.
Dear all, welcome to our conference, to DevConf. My name is Irina. I'm a session chair in this room. If you have any organization questions, you can address them to me. Okay, I want to ask you about several things. If you see a red sign on the door, full, please don't enter, or in another room, okay? We don't have microphones in the room, so please respect the speakers and be quiet. Also, if you have any questions, please speak loud, because we don't have microphones. When you enter or out, please close the door gently, okay? And we will have a short break from 12:10 to 12:20, okay? Please be in time. Okay. Are we about to start? The next workshop prepared by our Brno documentation team. It's about no documentation, no commits. Okay, let's welcome the speakers.
First of all, everybody should have a handout, which is a copy of the play portion of our presentation. If not, do we have any more copies? No. Okay. If you don't have one, find someone to sit next to who has one and look on their shoulder. Okay? Let's start. Here's some extra copies. Does anybody need? Pass them around.
You don't need to do exposure.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm the fairy fool.
and I'm the Beatley Bar. We hope that all of you comfortable are, for we will show you how brilliance alone can make wonders from but dirt and stone.
But
That it takes skill to make that push.
what you also need is
Shush! Now, here's a small play whose characters bear some likeness to those with real-world cares. Can you guess the roles portrayed? Can you wrest the veil away? The Queen!
I'm the quick-tempered queen of the land. I like music and I sing in a band. Now, my good people, hear ye. I just come up with a decree. I command that on yon open field, for me a castle swiftly be built. By 5 p.m. sharp, with many a room, else my millions are facing their doom.
The architect.
I'm the ardent architect, shaper of dust, silicon, plastic, and fragments of rust. A castle raised, I can craft it with closed eyes. My teams, they dance, drum, and do realize.
The page.
I'm the proper page, art in motion, dynamic, discreet, deep as the ocean. To go with the castle, the queen needs a map, to know where to go for a nap, and where to go for a crab. About castles, not much do I know. I will do my best with the map, though.
Now feast your eyes upon how it's done with but utmost skill in our Act 1.
A castle raised, I can craft it with closed eyes. My teams, they dance, drum, and do realize. But seriously, just a few hours left. If I fail, my head, my body, bereft.
About castles, not much do I know. I'll do my best with the map, though. But seriously, just a few hours left. If I fail, my head, my body, bereft.
The architect ponders.
2 wings or 3? More's always better, surely all can agree.
His steam begins to whirl, the dust begins to swirl. Let's have some wings, fills the air. Oh, what industry! The page peers through the dust, but finds no comprehension. So he does what is natural, and without any pretension, he Googles the word wings, finds them paired on most things, and draws a map to a 2-winged mansion. By now, it's mid-morning, and time for a coffee break. The page grabs the architect. They chat in the cafe.
So, the wing count is actually 3.
Isn't that obvious to see?
The page just nods as his hands begin to shake. And so the day progresses. How fast the clocks fly. The page struggles mightily to learn how, what, and why. Changes land furiously. Strangers stand curiously. Frustration marks the page's step, once deft and spry. Now, castle seems raised, hard to see in the dusty haze. The map seems drawn, judging from the page's days. The clocks chime 5, trumpets sound alive. The queen then arrives, but gets quickly irate, because nobody knows how to open the gate. And when her leg gets in the cesspit stuck, as she looks for her throne, she goes,
What the fuck? Now, I need to prep for the neighboring king, who to this castle will come visiting.
but the info on how the drawbridge to set is outdated, so the corking goes flat. So the queen puts her foot down and says,
This mess ain't cool. Guards off with their heads.
Stop, stop. Your efforts were great. So this fate I find quite wasteful. So heed, O present, my wisdom. Now, I will not retrieve these morsels tasteful. Realize that in this endeavor, your life is eased when you work together.
command that on yon open field for me a castle swiftly be built. By 5 p.m. sharp, with many a room, else my minions, they are facing their doom.
Now, let's try one more time this thing to do, but working together in our act 2.
A castle raised, I can craft it with closed eyes. My teams, they dance, drum and do realize. Yet now it occurs to me that with the page, we should make sure to be on the same page.
About castles, I know not all that much, so with the builders, I will keep in touch. But seriously, just a few hours left. If we fail, our heads, our bodies, bereft.
The architect ponders.
2 wings or 3? More's always better, surely all can agree.
The steam begins to whirl. The dust begins to swirl. He jots a quick note for the page to soon see. The page retrieves the note, finds partial comprehension, so he does what is natural, and without any pretension, he Googles the word wings, finds some ties on some buildings, and draws a plan to a 3-winged mansion. And so the day progresses. How fast the clocks fly. The page manages steadily to learn how, what, and why. Changes then furiously. Strangers then furiously. Elation is the page's mood. His ink will never dry. Writing each note gives the architect pause. Caravaggio, Michelangelo, he ponders their laws. Ideas thus less wacky, designs thus less hacky, he avoids rework and dead ends those time-sucking malls. Now, castle indeed raised, no more dust in the breezy air, the map is indeed drawn, detailed, resplendent, all aware, the clocks chime 5, trumpets sound alive. The queen then arrives, and flower petals are thrown. She takes the map, and quickly finds her new throne. And as rough visitors roll through the gate, all goes smoothly, so she says,
This is great!
finally she declares, happy with her new lair.
This I deem just. Folks, let's hold a fair.
Okay, thanks. While I do some preparatory things for the rest of our presentation, then I would like to invite everybody who acted to present themselves. We don't have microphones, so I guess you guys figure it out.
Yeah. So I'm the quick-tempered queen, right? No, I'm Vara. I work at Red Hat and I write documentation for Red Hat self-storage, and I really like it, so that's me.
Hi, I'm Ioana. I'm part of the Brno docs team as well, and I write documentation for Atomic and containers.
Hi, I'm Clayton, and I write the installation guide. That's it.
Hi, I'm Marek, and I'm doing basically anything middleware. So middleware docs, I'm your guy.
Hello, I'm Mirka. I write mostly for platform virtualization, and I'm also the resident crazy cat person.
Hi, I'm TNT. I write for OpenShift, and I'm also responsible for the rest of this presentation. So here's what's going to happen next. This is a workshop in theory, so we're going to work. This means we are going to talk. This means you are going to talk. This means we're going to talk together. What are we going to talk about? We have 3 things. We have, first of all, we just presented a play. This is an extended metaphor. So what we're going to do is first unravel it. What does it mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to us? I think we used language in the play that perhaps is a little bit difficult to understand, and perhaps the metaphors were not clear, so let's talk about that first. Then after that, we'll touch on what is no docs, no commit / merge, which is the title of this presentation. And after that, we'll discuss. If we have anything else to discuss, we'll discuss. In between, there will be a break, as Irina said, at
12:10, 12:20, 12:20.
right. So that would be a good time to escape and get some lunch. And stay away if you don't want to come back, okay? No obligation. Okay, so let's talk about the play. In the beginning of the play, I think on line 15, if you consult the script, then there's a question, right? The Beasley Bar poses a question. What did you say?
Can you guess the roles portrayed and can you rest the veil away?
Right. The roles portrayed. So the three primary roles here were the architect and the page. So these are obviously somehow related to no docs, no commit, right? So what do you think? Can anybody volunteer a guess? I mean, like, what are those roles? What are the analogies in terms of real world roles? Okay, we have it.
The queen is the customer?
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. This is good because it means that we're like really clear in our.
You know, architect is architect, software.
Okay.
Yes, software
And
engineer.
is the programmer.
Oh, almost. Okay, that's very close. What does the page produce in our play? The page produces
That's a man.
a map.
Oh, okay.
He's got to be a technical writer.
Oh!
Yeah.
This is the PowerPoint in the room is right here. Okay, and then so what is the architect then? Would be the developer, right? So let's see. We have the queen, page, architect, customer, technical writer, developer. Let's go back and forth so that you can kind of get that into your head, right? Go back, go forward. Okay, so these are the main metaphors for this. And now we're going to go forward and think about the other metaphors. Okay, what else? What does the fairy food? What does she do? What did you say?
Realize that in this endeavor, your life is eased when you work together.
Yes. Okay. So working together is what she said. What did she do? Yes. She's the manager. I guess in some sense, she is the manager. She is my peer, and so, yeah. She represents the wisdom of working together, because oftentimes, what does the Beatley Bar say initially? Beatley Bar, what did you say initially? What was your premise in terms of like?
Right, so a small play whose characters bear some likeness to those with real world cats.
Right, but before that, something about.
Right, of course. So, firstly, my premise was that it takes skill to make that push, both figurative and literal, and that brilliance alone can create wonders.
Right. So, basically, we have an idea that, and this is kind of a myth that's supported in society, is that like you can be brilliant, you can have talent, and you can. The lone guy, hacker in the basement or in the garage or wherever, can create a new Bill Gates, ... There's a lot of individualism, and this kind of thing is a very strong underlying message that the wisdom of the fairy Fu, who is perhaps a manager or perhaps somebody who has experience in having people work together, which is, I guess, a manager, corrects by giving the architect and the page a means of communication, right? So the communication and structuring the communication is important, and that's what the very key is. Okay, other metaphors. Let's see. Other, or let's just turn the page and say, was there anything not clear in the, like, we try to use really fancy language. Is there anything that you don't understand, you want clarified? What's the yeah, exactly.
It's like Yahoo, but you know.
It's like yeah, but cleaner, you know.
Yeah.
So some of the evil magic that we used, divine things.
Right. There's a dragon back there.
Ethereum.
I think it was called library before internet.
Okay, Alta Vista, okay? Yeah. I was there. All right, so other questions? Like, let's see. Anything in particular, anything? Okay, so what you're telling me is the play was completely clear, everything was perfect, and you just want me to continue and get on with it, right? Okay, fine. All right.
So we did really good job, right?
Yeah, we did a good job. Did we do a good job? Okay. All right. Let's now turn to, because, yeah, let's turn to the next slide, which is, what is technical writing? Okay, because documentation is technical writing. And so here, we ask people in the audience, that's you, to tell us what is technical writing, okay? And we're going to do this, we're going to get some answers. So we're not going to go forward. So now's the time to raise your hand and say something. And next slide, please. This is in your experience. IME is in my experience, and IMHO is in my humble opinion. Okay, so then really, what do you think about technical writing? What do you think about what technical writers do? The template for this is that you say, hi, I'm Brave. I'm going to say my role. I am a blah, 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 and this is what I think, okay? So yeah, I know this guy's groaning because...
Somehow I can't even remember that intro.
Can't even remember. You want to start? You started. You raised your hand. So.
Okay, so hi, my name is Anton. I'm a software engineer. So I'm sort of in the middle of paying the customers and I'm an engineer, you know. And in my humble opinion, technical writing is an ongoing struggle to get some meaningful information from the engineers and put them in some understandable form for a general audience.
Okay. Thank you. So I take it you have an intermediary role, and the key word that I heard from you was it's a struggle. Again, right? Is that correct?
After 3 years, yes.
Yes.
That's
Yeah, okay. That's in your experience
confirm.
also. Yeah, sure. To get information from the engineers into some form that
is easily understandable because, you know, reading GitHub source code is not so easily understandable. So
yeah. I've tried that. My hair used to be smooth. And source code. Okay, so that's one. Okay, let's get at least 5. Okay, I'm not going to go forward until we get at least 5 people. Okay, we have one.
Hi, my name is Timur. I'm 23, and in my humble opinion, technical writing is some kind of description of the product and also supplementary text with somebody who has a technical knowledge about the product for the rest of the world.
Okay, so I heard, because my ears are also bad, I'm old guy. I heard I'm QE, and technical writing is, that's the part that I didn't get.
My name is Timur. So basically, in my opinion, it's writing, like description of the product or some stuff. But the person who does it should have technical knowledge about this product. So it's not kind of like, so it's not documentation somewhere in the nice description, but with knowledge of the stuff.
Okay. I understand correctly, you say it is writing that is done by someone who knows about the product. That's the main thing. There should be familiarity with the product. And it encompasses documentation, but not just documentation. Other things. Right?
In my copy.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, that's 2. 3 to go. Okay, in the back.
Okay. Hi, I'm Devin. I work at SUSE as a QA maintenance engineer. And I'm also a little bit involved in automation. And I agree with what you said. Sorry, I didn't hear your name. But on the other hand, I have to say that if you know too much of the product, you do not see exactly what the user would like to know or see written in a document. So actually, there must be some kind of compromise or some pair of other eyes that can look at the product or whatever we're talking about from a different point of view. So yes, technical knowledge, but it's very important to have some other point of view closer to the user.
Okay. So if I can surmise, then I didn't catch your role. What is your role?
I'm a QA engineer.
QA engineer. Okay.
Well, in SUSE we have 2 teams, so I'm in the maintenance team.
Okay. So you're of this kind, and there's another kind, but in general, QA is what
Yes.
you do. Okay. And you say that it is possible to have an extreme knowledge, like too close, like if you know it so much, then that can be damaging in terms of not presenting something balanced towards the customer. You need somebody else to kind of mediate that, or to soften it up. Did I catch what you were trying to say? More or less?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the point.
That's the point. Okay, thank you. That's great. Anybody else? This side of the room is overrepresented. I don't know. There's the PowerPoint in the middle, and from the front.
Hi, I'm Stephen, and yes, I work in content services at Red Hat, and I'm a weaver. Bridge builder, actually. I try to bridge gaps. And my notion about technical writing is that it's bringing order to chaos.
Bringing order to chaos.
And that's really as simple as it
Okay.
Yes.
There we go. That's very straight, if I can summarize it.
Try to get in a few more words.
Wait a minute, I have to do this. I'm being rigorous, okay? I have to do this. I have to say, you are a
Bridge builder.
bridge built. You said weaver.
Bridge weaver.
A bridge made of weaving. Okay. So, a bridge builder / weaver, and you think that technical writing is bringing order to chaos.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, bringing order to chaos, that's really, okay, interesting. We'll talk about that. We'll have some beers. And
We'll have
talk
some
about
beer
it.
and talk about it.
Yes, please.
My name is Sean. I agree with everything Steven said, but I'm going to say it smarter.
It's nice to follow an
I work in the documentation
discipline.
But strictly with upstream open source projects and helping volunteers. That's who I am. And in my opinion, which is not at all humble,
Right.
technical
I gotta fix
writing
this slide.
is about taking a large amount of information, a huge wealth of information, a brain dump from your engineers.
Chaos.
And organizing it, strategizing how it's presented, and making it so that users can quickly and easily find the piece of information they want.
Okay. So, To summarize, you also work in content services.
I do not.
So I'm just like hearing echoes of this. It's because of your beard, man.
I only pretend to have a beard.
Someday.
I can only hope.
Someday I'll be
Exactly.
right. Okay, whatever you do. Alright, I'm not so rigorous, but whatever. Then you bring order to chaos, but with the specific intent to make it easy to find for the customer what they're looking for. So there's an additional layer of intent. Did I summarize correctly? What am I missing?
I agree, yes.
Okay.
As an upstream focused person,
Upstream.
I would use the word user over customer. But
Okay, user over customer.
I
Right.
understand how this works.
Well, whoever would, well, this is another controversial word, right? Consume the documentation. This is, so, but basically you want to make it easy and effective and quick for them to find it, right? So it's finding it. Okay, great. So then we have a bunch of opinions. Like, I know we did 5, and so the back row is like saying, okay, let's move on, but does nobody wants to represent the back here? Tomasz?
Actually, it was an interesting thought that you can be close to the recommendation and not actually see what other people don't see because you just know how to use that and you don't really necessarily express it. And I kind of think that the problem that I see in a lot of documentation is that people documenting stuff aren't actually invested in using the stuff that they are documenting. So that's something I see working.
Okay, interesting. So you didn't state your role, but I think it would be developer. Would that be fair to say? Okay. This is just offline knowledge I happen to know. But you raised a point. You didn't say what you think technical writing is, but you said you mentioned a problem of technical writing, or one thing that you see is that when writing about it, then if without the knowledge of the product, actually using it, right? Hands-on experience. Experience gives you something concrete to express. Like if I were to say, you know, if I were to write a poem, you know, what's it like to be blonde or something like that, then I have no experience in there, so I couldn't really feel it. But if I write another poem, like what's it like to have, I don't know, nothing to say on stage, then I would have a lot of experience in it, right? Okay, great. So experience, that is and it can be a problem because nothing beats experience, right? Okay, good. So, are you raising your hand? No, you already spoke. Oh, another one. And for you, technical writing involves, similar to what you were saying, it's more than just documentation, and that it's specifically things that the customer looks, it includes use cases, includes perhaps guides or reference architectures. It involves perhaps things that are not strictly in the classical world documentation. Did I capture what you were trying to say? Okay, great. So we probably are out of time, right? Or?
Yeah, we have like 4 or 5 more minutes before the break.
Come on. All right. What's the next slide? Okay, so next slide is we're going to go into the actual no docs, no commit philosophy. Okay, so why don't we break early, and so that you get 15 minutes of time to decide to not come back if you don't want to, but also to get more food, because I think there's a lot of free food here. Please go out and enjoy yourself. We will reconvene at 12.
Before we do that,
Oh,
we have a bunch of flash sticks here with the script and the slides, so if you're interested, you can follow them along, and for those, if there are more people than the flash sticks, just copy them in between yourselves.
this is a script. If you have hard copy and you want it soft copy, that's what Robert's talking about. And the slides like this. So, but in 15 minutes it'll be 12:20, right?
Yes, please return to the room in time, 12:20, okay? And use the break to grab your coffee and also leave the feedback about the event, about the presentation. The links you will find on the back side of your program. Okay?
Exactly. Our favorite word.
Very excited. Unfortunately, they're all in this room. But no, it was fantastic. It actually did look perfect. And the one on Facebook is live. Ooh, that's so special. I've never actually seen it. I really don't know what I'm talking about.
As long as you work in a company and teams dedicated to documentation, and maybe complex structure, then eventually documentation gets done. And if you there's some feedback that allows the documentation to grow and to be used. But I mean, what if you have another screen project? Let's say you start as a one-man team, let's say. So how would you deal in that case with documentation? Because when you're hacking, you're going to documents and it's extracting. What's your take?
I agree.
how do you see yourself in 5 years? How do you see yourself reading your code in 5 years? Something like that. So that usually works for me, but only for me. That's the point. So as long as or RTS stuff.
No.
I don't think we're going to have questions. We're just discussing.
Okay, so when do you, so then I will show like 12 minutes, I will show 10 minutes left, and 12:55, 5 minutes, and 1 o'clock.
We're going to be done before.
This documentation that you're working on, as I get the idea that it's more customer facing. Yes, so it's more about
That's one aspect of it.
Yeah.
But I was just
because when we had the play, I took it from my side. I'm a development engineer, so I'm always looking at this, and I was more thinking about specifications than documentation. I had, in my experience, I had the most problems with specifications.
But see, that's a form of documentation.
Yeah,
that's the design documentation.
It's still, I mean, it's a different kind of use. It's maybe a more educated use.
Yeah, the main problem with the specification was always that you left the room for the developer to assume. That was the biggest problem of my documentation or specification. So, it was not precise.
Without we're looking at a lot of context that the user will have. Assumes shared context, but that's good. I think, like if I don't mention that, then I want to expand the
Because I work in corporations, everywhere there was this problem. The corporation was not precise.
Because it comes down to so the end. Actually, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to get
Yeah, of course.
back. Okay, so I invite you guys to go.
Yeah. Okay. So we can talk about it in the presentation.
Yeah, we can talk. That's the whole point.
Okay.
This presentation is a workshop.
Sorry,
Let's also put the crossbones underneath.
Okay. What is this?
Dear all, welcome back to the second part of our workshop, of the workshop by no documentation tip, no documentation, no commits. I want to remind you, please leave your feedback. Okay, you will find all the links on the back side of
So we have more time to kill. Let's finish this what is technical writing, which is not this thing. Magically.
Oh.
Okay. Now we're going to go fast forward, right?
Yeah, rewind. Not rewind.
By the way, anything about the play, you can always talk to us afterwards. Okay, so the next step, slightly before we get to this, I want to open the same question: what is technical writing, in my opinion or in my experience, to some of the folks on stage. If you want to say something about that, or Robert. Then, yeah, please.
So I would say, I mean, I agree with everything that was said in that room, and I think that the technical writing is about getting the information and understand the things, right? It's really about the understanding. As I heard the feedback that sometimes it looks like we didn't try to understand it. Trust me, we are trying all the time. But for an understanding, we need to have a developer on our side because sometimes we do have questions, right? And we are trying to understand that. So that's the thing. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's it.
Okay. Anyone else want to say something?
Yeah, I thought what a lot of people said about we should try talking about how we need to tell the customer what they need to hear, tell them the things they're interested in, and I think that's a really good point. And in a lot of ways, we're kind of like an intermediary between the software and the people that develop it and the customers, and so yeah, we have to pay attention to what they want to hear and go and get that information and kind of act as a bridge.
We are basically like the messengers, right? We need to collect information from global support, for example, customers, if we have a chance to talk to some, from the developers, from quality engineering, right? Because they also have another point of view on the product. So we have to somehow wrap this all up and then produce them up, right? Or the documentation.
I once used a metaphor for us that got slightly controversial, that we are sort of like Moses.
Wow.
Because he has to take the infinitely complex word of the divine powers.
Developers.
Oh, I love that overstatement.
Come on, we need their help.
And he has to condense it and simplify it into something that is comprehensible yet followable, by normal people, normalish people. As far as sysadmins are normal.
Oh man. Okay.
You shouldn't have asked all.
Yeah. Right. All I can say is we're not professionals. That is, we're not professional actors. So everything expressed here is sincere. All right. Anything else? Okay. In fact, this leads.
I will hold it.
That's very kind. So this leads us, actually, these kinds of things, like the friction or the difficulty in avoiding to lose our heads, right? I mean, what is the end of Act 1? What happened? What was the consequence before the rewind? The minions lost their heads. The queen was irate. There was like
the king was dead.
The king was dead, yeah. But who cares about the king, right? It's the queen that counts. Okay, yeah. The king was dead. There was like a bad experience, and so. But the point is, these things were avoided in the second act due to a better communication model, basically. And so this is the focus of this talk, actually. What we're going to do now is pass on to step for to-do item number 2 is grok. Grok. Who knows? Who doesn't know what grok means? Okay. Can you explain what grok means, please?
Yes.
Oh, can you explain?
Grok's a term borrowed from a Robert Heinlein novel, science fiction novel, and it means to understand. Grok, I understand.
Well, it means understanding its
In a deep,
fullness.
profound sense.
Understand everything.
Right. The essence.
Okay. Stranger in Strange Land, great book.
Yes.
Okay. Oh.
What is in the NCM?
No commits.
Yeah. You know, some people hate acronyms.
No commits nerds.
Yeah.
The name of the talk.
Yeah, I had to squish it all on the slide and make it big and, fulfill,
Actually, in a good documentation, we should explain the.
Right.
Like,
this is not good
the
documentation.
acronym first,
We shouldn't use slash.
You shouldn't use slash. It's all caps. It's like.
And parentheses in the running text.
Yeah.
It's all wrong.
So this completely violated the style guide, but I had to do it.
Just showing you guys why we're important, right? Imagine if all the docs were like this.
Right. However, this good point is that it's concise, right? And I think by the end of this talk, then I hope that the people who are developers and who would like to help their documentation effort realize that a small, concise note can be helpful as the seed, right? But we'll get to that in a few seconds. So we're going to understand no docs, no commit, / merge. But here we have no something, no something. Okay, this is a pattern. What does it mean? Have you ever heard of this no food or drink, no party? No kielbasa, no party? I mean, that's got to be pretty common here, right? Nobody has heard of that?
I heard it only from you.
Come on, this is like, or many commercials have this advertisements. No campari, no party. Okay, maybe this is just in Italy. I don't know. Okay, nowhere. Yeah, exactly. This is the same idea. It's what is saying. The idea expresses is that without this important thing, then you cannot have the next one, right? It's like a gating factor. It's like, so let's see, next slide. What is party here? Party is quality. It's like without that kind of food and drink, you can't have a quality experience, right? And so here, the documentation, including the user cases, including the README files, including just the man pages, all these things all are observed and read and contribute to the quality of the user experience. In this case, the user is the customer, and what we're trying to do is increase that overall experience, right? We're trying to get to quality. We're trying to make quality to be apparent, and because quality is not something that can be really inherent in something. Like if I say, does this have quality? This pad of paper, this pad of sticky notes, does it have quality? For some people might say yes, some people might say no, and the real answer is why would it have quality, and who says? For me, it has quality because it's green. I like this color, and it calms me. So to me, it has quality. But maybe, and that's just right now because I'm nervous. I'm on stage. But maybe another day I would be like, oh, I don't need this. It's dead trees. What a waste of resources. This has low quality. So quality is in the perception. And what we're talking about is the customer perception of not just the documentation, not just all the things that they read, but of the product, right? They use the product. I mean, really, we're talking about software. What is it physically, tangibly, that the customer sees or feels with software? There's a keyboard, there's a screen, there's, the software is all inside. Everything is in their experience, and the documentation, and how it interact with the software. It's all about the experience. So quality comes from the experience. Quality is the moment of experience, according to this really old guy who's probably dead by now, Robert M. Pirsig. Anybody hear of this author? Robert M. Pirsig. Okay, he wrote a book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Okay, it's about quality. It's an inquiry into the qualities. Okay, so quality is the goal here, but we can't build it into it. So, but how do we get to it? We have to act in a way that fosters it. Okay, so next slide. So we have some QA people here, QE in some. Okay, so what's the difference between QA and QE? Who knows? Okay, but the main thing is the Q, right? The Q is the quality. Right? It's like quality something, but there's quality involved, right? So what do... Comment?
Quality engineering or quality assurance, right?
Okay.
I like it.
Accurate.
You got QE guys here. Raise your hands.
The difference is one letter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. You should join the docs team, I think. We make these fine distinctions. Okay. In this community, which is also concerned with quality, then there's this philosophy. Okay, no test, no commit. What does this mean? Who can, QE guys, QA guys, what is no test, no commit? Tell me.
That, at least test-driven development, that you have to write test code first and then code in the code for the functionality. And unless you submit the code that actually does the things with the test, and your commit is not accepted.
Right, okay, so basically it's a gate on accepting of changes in the functionality, and that gate is in the form of a test, right? No test, no proof of non-regression or non-breakage or proper integration, then no commit, right? So basically it's saying we can't really express quality. The one way that we know how to express quality is to say we don't want to break things, okay? Or we want to make things, and we will not step forward until we have the assurance and the engineering of a test. A test gives us this kind of thing. So by doing this, we don't know if really we can add quality, but we know that we're maintaining it, right, by doing this process. Okay, so same idea. Let's go. What's the difference? It's more than one letter this time, right? It's one word. No docs, no commit. This is because now we're thinking, okay, before I commit, before I make this change, I, as a programmer or developer in the common parlance, I am thinking not only of the functionality, not only that I don't want to break things, but I'm thinking of the user or the customer or the client. It's like I'm changing, for example, I changed the output format on the bin list command, right? I remember a long time ago, bin lists used to have a fixed width format. That is, when you say list ls minus l, you get a fixed number of columns for each field, for example. And this was really problematic for usernames, because my username was, or login name, I guess, TTN, which is short, so there's like lots of space that's wasted, right? If you look at bin list output, you see, but these days, if you do a bin list minus L, then if all the columns are of one width, then they're compressed, right? So this is a change in the output format of the ls command. So whoever did that, it was a GNU hacker, because this is GNU core utils. At that point, they documented it. Okay, so they were doing this. They were saying, okay, I'm going to make a change in the output format. This is something that will affect the user. I'm going to document it because I want the documentation how the user perceives my program, which is, to be in sync, to be synchronized without the reality, how it actually behaves, right? So in this way, I maintain the quality of the program. So that's the idea of having a synchronized thing. And the communication style helps a lot with that. Okay, so this is, when it's one guy, it's very easy because it just takes the right mentality. Just think, okay, well, I have some pride in the output. I have the pride in the user experience. I want them to be synchronized. It's all one guy. But when there's more than one person, when there's a docs team, and there's like the developing team, and there's the QE team, then how can they maintain quality if they don't communicate, right? That's basically what we're saying here. So next slide, please. So that's the gist of this presentation, is like, how applicable is this philosophy though, right? And why is there no docs, no commit / merge? I mean, what's up? It's like, besides violating style guides, why is there this? If I take, like when you're committing to, you're changing the software, and every single change, if you submit a small blurb to the docs team and say, okay, I changed this, I changed that, then maybe that's too granular. In fact, I would say most people kind of think that's the first reaction we get. It's like, okay, you want me to inform you, I'm the programmer or developer, you want me to inform you of everything that I do? And it's like, well, I just, changed a typo here, or I just changed the white space, or added comments. Like, I don't need to inform you of that. And I agree. I think that's too granular, right? Because that's not something that would affect the user. The user or the client or the customer doesn't see these things. So if I take a strict stance, like, okay, well, I'm going to improve my organization, and we're going to make all the programmers, every commit, they're going to do something with docs related, that's too granular. Okay, next step, next slide. If you do no docs, no merge, which means, okay, on every merge, so I do a bunch of commits, do my rebasing, blah, 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 and now it's time to merge the feature into the main line. If I do that, then maybe it's too coarse, right? There's a lot of documentation that could be affected by that one. So obviously, if one is too granular and the other is too coarse, you have to do the next one, right? You have to choose. You have to choose at runtime. Next slide. Which would be commit or merge. It depends, right? That's why it depends. You have to think about what is the impacts, the client impact, the customer impact, the end user impact. So at this point, people are going to escape. Okay. Bye. Please send feedback. So it is, I think it is not the intent of this talk to say no docs, no commit. It's not the intent of this presentation to say no docs, no merge, but it is to encourage the thinking of when I do a change, does it affect the user, the end user, the client, the customer, or even myself, because oftentimes I'm going to be writing software for myself that I'm going to be using in 6 months, and I add a cool new option, and I start to use it immediately, but I forget about that option. And then in 6 months, I'm like cursing up a storm because I think I hit the same use case. I want to add that option again, and I have to go and look at the source. Wow, I could have saved myself, 3 hours of digging around if I had just written a little bit of documentation in a README file, that explains this new option. But the point here is that commits too granular, merging perhaps too coarse, it should be together. And when you have a team, separate teams, then this togetherness has to be, should be, this is what we hold here, it should be part of the system of the organization. That is, there should be some kind of, let's work together to add this feature. Let's work together, inform. So there's the planning, at the planning stage, then things to get started. Excuse me 1 second. Can someone else talk for a bit?
About what? What do you want to talk about? Do you have any experience with no drugs, no commit? Yeah.
I have 2 comments/questions.
Share them.
The first is probably the most closer to the last thing we were talking about. So, isn't revision control made to auto-document the changes so that eventually a documentation team can look into the commit, the log, and try to understand what changed without the developer needing to poke the documentation team?
Well, it would be, I think, in the ideal world, but in our world, when we usually work on several products, and there are many, documentation backwards, what needs to be documented, for example. To be honest, there's no time to search revision history for every product or every, for example, in RHEL, RHEL is basically a bunch of packages all together, right? So, looking into the revision history, it takes that much amount of time to dig into it. It's easier if you are a developer, and also sometimes we are not able to tell, okay, is this change that significant that we should include it? This is also, for example, problem with the release notes, right? Because sometimes you just don't know which change is that huge or not, or which is just, if how the customers use it, because the knowledge of the product is so complex, so we can't every time to do that. But basically you're right, it would be great. But it's better to, as the, you want to tell something, or someone.
Yeah, because I think the comments on the Git, like the Git comment, are for developers. And for the developers, it's an application. When I write a Git commit message, it's used for the next developer that will want to know why it doesn't change, not because of the documentation team or something like that. So I think there is a separation.
For example, sorry, just a comment for that. I was working on self-release notes for the last release we had, and basically because I was new to the team, and they told me, okay, so just look at the upstream release notes, and the upstream release notes were just a bunch of Git logs, and self is a little, it's kind of complex, right? And so I was lost. I was really lost, and I must admit I was frustrated a little bit. I wanted to do my job the best, but sometimes you need to prioritize. So then I just connected with developers and wrote the release notes. But yeah.
I think the thing that TNT was saying about coarseness, granularity, I think often those commits are incredibly granular. One commit might say, this now works with 64 megabyte files or something. And that might actually mean to the customer, you can use it on 10 different kinds of architectures you couldn't use it on before. But for the developer, they just, it's a different thing they're talking about. Sometimes it's not useful.
I was trying to add to this, so please continue.
No, that was it. I'm done.
So, I'm a developer, so I know what I put into commit logs, and most of the stuff I put in there
guy to go to if I have a problem, or you need to basically. I feel that maybe sometimes the product documentation of the technical team could be somehow not that integrated with the development team, with the QE guys and all the others. And I think that the good thing to do is to integrate all those people together, because overall we are working for the same thing, right? We want to be this product usable, and people should know where to go for an app and where to go for a grab, right? So that's the thing.
Sounds like you and Red Hat have separate documentation, development teams, and everything.
Well,
so what I had before, like 3 years ago, we had a dedicated technical writer in the team, like a Scrum team, let's say, but there was developers, testers, UX, and technical writers. So this was like really good.
Yeah. This is what we well, it's not that we are just a separate team. Usually, every one of us working on one thing, and you get to know the people. So before that I worked on SC Linux, and I know all the guys responsible for SC Linux, and I talked to them several times when SC Linux group. And so it's not that we don't do that. It's more that it's not maybe that connected as it was like that. Because also sometimes it's hard to do that if you are working on a bigger project. For example, I maintain the deployment guide for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is a beast. it's a huge book with several topics, and I couldn't have the expertise to know everything from networking to security to system administration to authentication idea, right? So, yeah. But for example, now in SEP, that's good because it's a small product, so it works. That scheme works really good. Yeah.
I have something else, some other question. It's about, do you use some standards when you are writing the documentation? Because in my experience, the people are lost when they have to write something, and they don't know how to start.
Well, actually, Clayton has a really nice acronym at his desk. I will be a little bit rude. It's read the fucking manual. So he has write the fucking manual. I mean, every time, the beginning is always the worst part. Because for example, I just want to learn as much as I can about the thing, so I could start. But yeah, and as for your question with the standards, we do use standards. We have the guidelines. We've got a style guide. We've got Acrobot, which is really cool too. For if you don't know acronym, you can just search it in there. So yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
Okay.
I want to expand on that question and also the answer. I think ideally, then we would have standards, and we would also help developers to approach those standards. I don't think we can expect everybody to maintain the standards. That's why we're the professionals, and other people do things that they're good at. But we can say, for example, if we expect things in outline format, we can say, how to structure the information so that it's the initial handoff is more efficient and just less of a having to dig out the information from one side and to the other. Both having, it's like an agreed specification for how to communicate, right? It's like,
and so. By the docs no commit, we didn't mean to say that, oh, developers, you just need to, write it all. It's not like that. It's just more to have the initial information we can start with, right? Also, we do test stuff, so then we maybe think about something else, what can be added to the documentation. We are also working with GSS guys, so we are asking them, okay, so what is the biggest pain for this product? What are the customers calling for? Okay, so yeah.
Okay, it's somebody here. I'm from the Dutch team as well. And it's sometimes about asking the right questions to the developers. Because sometimes they are thinking about the patch. Well, a developer tells me, well, I'm not sure what's inside the patch is being fixed upstream. And I said, I don't want to know what's inside the patch, what the patch actually, in the code, what it does. I want to know why the customer could be affected and what problem it fixes. You know, the context for the customer. Why is this fix is important for a customer? And I need to ask the developer because he thinks in code. I need to, to make him think from the other side. Well, could I be affected by that? Because some customers may not be affected because they don't use the feature or in that environment. So we must help developers with or by asking the right questions.
I have a similar experience. I'm a DevOps engineer, so I have more problems in my experience. I have more problems with specifications from the architect and so on. Because sometimes, a lot of times, they are really vague, so you don't know the specifics, and then it's like it's not good to give the developer room to assume things.
I think that we can wrap this discussion. It's not ended, but I want to say, the communication is the key. That's sticky notes, guys. Sticky notes.
Right. Timely communication, okay?
Yeah.
Because if 5 p.m. arrives and the Queen has this unsatisfactory experience, heads and body bereft. Okay, so next slide. Okay, we only have 2 minutes, so the things that we can think about and